Before you were ever denied a loan, before you ever struggled to rent an apartment, before you ever wondered why life suddenly became more expensive for you, a decision was already made. Not by a bank, not by a human, by a number that watched you silently while you lived your life. It saw when you were late. It saw when you were desperate. It saw when you needed help. And when the moment came, it judged you. Some people get keys. Some people get contracts. Some people get futures. Others get a quiet no. No explanation, no appeal, no second chance, just a screen and a number that decided what you were allowed to become. But it doesn't feel dangerous. You don't feel watched when you tap your card. You don't feel judged when you pay your bills. You don't feel trapped when you check your bank app. It all feels normal, routine, boring even. Just numbers going up, numbers going down, a score on a screen. Something you were told is fair, something you were told is neutral, something you were told simply measures responsibility. And for most of us, we never question it. Because it looks harmless, because it sounds mathematical, because it feels like common sense. But here's what almost nobody tells you. That score isn't just measuring your past. It's quietly controlling your future, where you live, what you drive, how much you pay for everything, who trusts you, who doesn't. It can follow you for decades. It can punish you for one mistake. It can lock doors you didn't even know existed. And the most terrifying part? You don't get to see how it really works. You don't get to see the rules. You don't get to see the data. You don't get to see who profits when you fail. You just see the result. A yes or a no that changes your life. This is the true story of how a hidden financial system became one of the most powerful forces on Earth. And once you understand it, you'll never look at a simple number the same way again. And if you think this doesn't affect you, stay with me. Because in the next few minutes, you're going to discover how this number is already shaping your life, even if you've never seen it. At first, it doesn't feel like power. It feels like paperwork, a form on your phone, a checkbox, a number on a screen. You tap, you scroll, you submit. You're not standing in a courtroom. You're not facing a judge. You're not even talking to a person. You're just applying for something simple. A phone, a car, an apartment, a credit card, a chance. And somewhere, quietly, your credit score is pulled. A 3-digit number created by companies you've never met, using data you never agreed to decide what you're allowed to have. It doesn't feel like crime. It doesn't feel dangerous. There are no sirens, no handcuffs, no accusations, just a polite message. Unfortunately, we regret to inform you, at this time, and suddenly a door you expected to open doesn't. Most people are told this number is fair, that it simply measures how responsible you are, but that's not what it really measures. It measures your past through a distorted lens. It tracks when you were late, but not why. It tracks when you missed a payment, but not whether you were sick, laid off, or caring for someone. It records debt, but not desperation. And once that data enters the system, it doesn't forget. Credit bureaus, massive private corporations, collect and sell this information. They buy it. They trade it. They profit from it. Your financial history becomes a product, a profile, a risk score. And then that profile is fed into automated systems used by banks, landlords, insurers, and employers. Machines trained on millions of past decisions. Machines that learned one simple rule: who is safe and who is not, who is worth trusting and who is not, who belongs inside the system and who stays outside it. You never see those rules. They're protected, proprietary, hidden. So when the system says no, you don't get to ask why. You just get to live with it. And that's what makes it powerful, because power doesn't always look like force. Sometimes it looks like a quiet email sent by an invisible machine that just changed the rest of your life. And the scariest part? This system doesn't just follow you. It predicts you. It decides what you will be before you ever become it. Behind every credit decision today, there is no human being sitting at a desk. There is no one listening to your story, no one asking what happened, no one weighing effort or intention. There is a machine. Your credit score is not created by judgment. It is created by automated statistical models, systems designed to analyze enormous databases of financial behavior. Every payment you've ever made, every debt you've ever carried, every time you were late, every time you were desperate. These models were built to find patterns, to answer one question: is this person safe to lend to or not? And the more data they collect, the more confident they become in their predictions. Today, banks and lenders don't just look at your credit score. They use AI-powered underwriting systems to process applications faster than any human ever could. Your application doesn't go to a person. It goes into a machine that compares you to millions of people who came before you, people who paid, people who defaulted, people who struggled, people who failed. And from that ocean of past lives, the system calculates a probability. What will you do? Will you pay? Will you fall behind? Will you become a problem? And once the machine decides, the decision is made. No meeting, no debate, no mercy. Just a silent judgment. Even the companies that use these systems often cannot explain their decisions. Public research has shown that modern credit and lending algorithms are so complex and proprietary that even lenders don't know why one applicant is approved and another is denied. The machine doesn't show its work. It just gives an answer. And that's what makes it terrifying. Because when a human judge denies you, you can ask why. When a machine denies you, there is nothing to question. You don't know what to fix. You don't know what rule you broke. You don't even know which version of yourself the system saw. You only see the outcome. And then there is something even darker. This machine was trained on the past, on decades of financial history, on millions of real people, on who was given opportunity and who was not. But history is not fair. For generations, entire communities were locked out of banks, denied loans, given worse terms, charged more, trusted less. That inequality was recorded, stored, logged, saved as data. So when the machine learned how to judge, it learned from a world that was already broken. Like any machine, it learned from what came before. And what came before was unequal. So when it predicts who is risky, it isn't just measuring behavior. It is echoing history, which means this system doesn't just decide your future. It carries the past forward with it. Every time it says yes or no, it is repeating patterns that existed long before you were born. And you have no way to escape it, because you are not being judged by who you are now. You are being judged by what the machine believes people like you have done before. And it never forgets. There are moments in life that feel like everything is about to change, When a family stands in front of a house, imagining birthdays in the living room, imagining children growing taller in the hallway, imagining a future that finally feels stable. They fill out the application. They submit their income. They give their history. And then they wait. What they don't know is that their dream is no longer in human hands. It has been handed to a machine. An investigation by journalists at the markup revealed something chilling. In the United States, Black, Latino, Native American, and Asian mortgage applicants were far more likely to be denied home loans than white applicants with similar financial profiles. Not because they earned less, not because they had worse credit, but because the system treated them differently. Black applicants were found to be about 80% more likely to be denied a mortgage than white applicants with comparable credit and income. Latino and Native American applicants also faced significantly higher denial rates. On paper, the system looked neutral. Same forms, same scores, same numbers, but in real life, the outcomes were not the same. Families did everything right. They saved. They worked, they qualified, and the machine said no. No home, no stability. No chance to build wealth the way others could. Because when the algorithm looked at their credit score, it didn't just see payments and debt. It saw patterns from the past. It saw neighborhoods that had been redlined, communities that had been underbanked, generations that were denied loans long before these people were even born. So when the system predicted risk, it was really predicting history. They weren't denied because of bad credit. They were denied because the number for their credit and what the machine read into that number carried a hidden bias. A bias built from decades of unequal access, unequal treatment, unequal opportunity. The machine didn't see a family, it saw a probability. And for some people, that probability has been trained to look like danger. It looked neutral on paper. But the outcome was never neutral in life. Homes were lost before they were ever owned. Futures were blocked before they were ever started. And the most cruel part? Most of these families were never told why. They just heard the same quiet word: no. If you think this couldn't happen to you, keep watching, because in the next case, we'll see how this same system can turn one simple error into a lifelong sentence. There is something worse than being judged unfairly, being erased. In the modern financial world, you do not truly exist as a person. You exist as a file. Inside the databases of credit bureaus like Equifax, your life is stored as rows of data. Your name, your accounts, your payment history, your debts, your identity. And when that data is wrong, you become someone else. Public court records and investigative reporting have shown that Equifax and other major credit bureaus have been sued repeatedly for serious credit reporting errors. In one documented lawsuit, a consumer discovered their credit score was reported to be around 130 points lower than it should have been. That one number, just a few digits, was enough to turn them from a low-risk borrower into a financial suspect. The system didn't care that the person paid their bills. It didn't care that the error wasn't theirs. The machine only saw the number, and because of that number, they were charged higher interest rates, offered worse terms, quietly punished every time they tried to move forward. Nothing about their life changed. Only the data did, and in other cases, the damage was even more brutal. Some people discovered that the credit system had declared them dead, not metaphorically, dead. In the files of the credit bureaus, they no longer existed. Their credit cards stopped working. Their loans were canceled. Their applications were rejected. To the machine, they were a ghost. They had to prove they were alive to a system that did not believe them. Other people found that their credit reports had been mixed with strangers, someone else's debts, someone else's missed payments, someone else's bankruptcies. Suddenly, they were being punished for a life they never lived. Imagine waking up one day to find that the system says you failed, that you owe money you never borrowed, that you missed payments you never missed, and no one will tell you where the mistake came from. There is no one to confront, no one to cross-examine, just an invisible database that now defines who you are. Imagine applying for credit and the system says you're dead because the database says so, and every door listens to the database. Employers, landlords, banks, insurers, they don't see you, they see the file. Millions of people trust these companies to tell the truth about their lives, but for many, the system told a lie. And that lie didn't just hurt their pride. It raised their rent, raised their interest, blocked their future. Because in this world, your identity is not what you say it is. It is what the machine says it is. And when the machine is wrong, there is nowhere to appeal. At this point, it would be easy to believe these stories are just tragedies, a wrong file, a broken algorithm, a single person unlucky enough to be caught in the system. But when researchers started looking not at one case, but at millions of them, they saw something else. They saw patterns. Public research has shown that algorithms don't just analyze the present. They are trained on history. They absorb decades of financial data: who was approved, who was rejected, who paid more, who got less. And history, especially in finance, is not fair. For generations, entire communities were denied loans, redlined, underbanked, charged higher interest, locked out of wealth. That discrimination didn't disappear. It was recorded. It became data. So when modern algorithms learned how to decide who is safe and who is risky, they learned from a world that had already chosen winners and losers. Studies from public universities have shown that AI underwriting tools were more likely to give worse outcomes to Black borrowers, even when income, debt, and financial profiles were similar. That means the machine wasn't measuring risk. It was measuring history. Other research found that minority applicants could still face unequal loan approvals even when their credit scores were nearly identical to white applicants. Same number, different future. That's not a glitch. That's how the system works. Because algorithms don't ask why someone struggled. They only record that they did. They don't see medical bills. They don't see layoffs. They don't see disasters. They just see debt. And then they punish it. And here is where it becomes cruel. When the system denies someone a loan, it makes it harder for them to improve their situation. No mortgage, no business loan, no lower interest rates, which leads to more financial strain, which creates more negative data, which the machine then uses as proof that it was right. A loop, a self-fulfilling prophecy. The algorithm predicts failure and then helps make it happen. And it doesn't stop with one person. It spreads across families, across neighborhoods, across generations. Children grow up in rented homes instead of owned ones. Families pay more for everything. Communities fall further behind, and all of it is justified by a machine that calls itself neutral. A machine that says, we didn't discriminate, we just followed the data. But the data was born in an unequal world, so the future becomes unequal too. It isn't just one mistake. It's a system of unequal outcomes repeating itself over and over, quietly, mathematically, and with no one to hold accountable. And if this system can decide who gets to own a home, who gets affordable credit, who gets to build wealth, then it is not just a financial tool, it is a form of power, one that shapes who rises and who stays locked out. When a system becomes this powerful, the question is no longer whether it works. The question is whether it is fair. Because when something can decide where you live, what you pay, and what kind of future you're allowed to build, it becomes a form of power, and every form of power is supposed to have limits. In the United States, those limits were written into law. One of them is called the Equal Credit Opportunity Act. It says that lenders are not allowed to deny you credit because of your race, your background, or the neighborhood you come from. It was designed to protect people from being quietly locked out of opportunity. But that law was written for a different world, a world where humans made decisions, where a loan officer sat across a desk and chose whether to say yes or no. Today, that desk is empty. The decisions are being made by automated systems that live inside computers. And those systems do not sit in courtrooms. They do not testify. They do not explain themselves. They simply output a result. Approved. Denied. Experts have warned that modern credit scoring lacks transparency. The formulas are proprietary. The models are secret. The data is hidden. Which means when you are rejected, you are not told why. You don't know what data was used. You don't know what rule was triggered. You don't know what part of your past the machine decided mattered most. You are given a number, but not the truth behind it. And without that truth, there is no way to fight back. If a human discriminates, you can question them. You can demand an explanation. You can take them to court. But how do you challenge a machine that won't reveal its rules? What do you cross-examine? A probability? A training data set? An algorithm? Even regulators struggle to keep up with these systems. Technology evolves faster than the law. And the people being judged are left powerless. This creates something dangerous, a system that can shape millions of lives without ever being fully seen, where accountability disappears into code. The law tries to protect fairness, but the machine does not show its rules, and in a world where the rules are invisible, justice becomes something you can no longer touch, only feel. And for the people caught inside this system, that feeling is fear. For millions of people, this number is not an abstraction. It is not a statistic. It is not a theory. It is a moment when an email arrives and everything goes quiet. A denial, not because of something you did today, but because of what a system remembers about you. Public reporting and consumer complaints have shown that credit decisions touch almost every part of modern life. Housing, cars, insurance, utilities, even jobs. A low score doesn't just cost money, it costs dignity. It means landlords who never call back, utility companies that demand deposits, banks that offer only the worst terms. It means you pay more for the same life as everyone else, and that weight is carried every day. A locked mailbox with overdue notices inside. a door with an eviction warning taped to the wood, a kitchen table covered in bills and forms that no one knows how to fix. Public consumer protection agencies have documented millions of disputes filed by people trying to correct their credit reports. Millions of people trying to prove that the number on the screen does not tell their real story. But the system moves slowly. And while it moves, life keeps happening. Rent is due. Children need food, cars break down, medical bills arrive, and the score follows them everywhere. For some families, one bad month becomes 10 bad years, because once the number falls, everything becomes more expensive, and the harder it becomes to recover, the more the system sees that struggle as proof that you are risky, a trap, a loop, a quiet sentence that never seems to end. For millions, this number isn't abstract. It is terror at midnight. It is a denial email. It is the key that never turns. And behind every score is a human being trying to survive inside a system that does not see their pain, only their data. In the past, crime had a face, a person, a weapon, a scene. But today, the most powerful crimes don't look like crimes at all. They look like spreadsheets, databases, quiet decisions made by machines that never have to explain themselves. No one breaks into your home. A number just decides how far your life is allowed to go. Who gets approved? Who gets priced out? Who gets left behind? This is how control works in the 21st century, not through fear, but through math. And if you don't understand the systems that are judging you, you are already being shaped by them. Because the biggest crimes today are often invisible, hidden in code, in data, in numbers that decide your worth without ever knowing your name. This channel exists to expose those hidden systems, to tell the stories they never show you, to reveal the power operating behind the screen. If you want to see what's really deciding your future, subscribe now. Because once you understand the game, you can never be played the same way again.